studied Shafi school is because first I interested in the works of Abu Hamid Ghazali. It inspires not only me but Japanese Muslims also. We had a big name like Toshihiko Izetsu. He's doing comparative studies between East Asian religion and Islam.
I know, back to the question of religion and science.
From technology, like people may create a human being in future. We have some kind of Islamophobia from Japanese also, because these days they feel in the threat of like the foreign people who are coming to work in Japan.
Is there a concern of radical or extremist ideologies amongst Japanese Muslim communities in Japan? حتى نهاية القرن التاسع عشر لم يكن الإسلام قد دخل اليابان بعد، فقد عاشت بلاد الشمس المشرقة عزلتها الخاصة التي فرضتها عليها الجغرافيا والتاريخ وأسلوب الحياة الذي اختاره مجتمع الساموراي. عرف اليابانيون الإسلام لأول مرة في نهاية القرن التاسع عشر عن طريق مهاجرين من الإيغور الصينيين والتتر الروس. وفي القرن العشرين أخذ الدين الإسلامي في الانتشار تدريجياً وبوتيرة بطيئة بسبب ندرة وسائل الترجمة من اللغة العربية إلى اليابانية. البروفيسور فوغا كيمورا واحد من الباحثين اليابانيين الذين تخصصوا في الدراسات الإسلامية، زار العديد من البلدان العربية لاكتساب الخبرة ومد جسور التواصل بين الحضارة الإسلامية والمجتمع الياباني. هو ضيفي في هذه الحلقة من حديث العرب. أهلا بكم. إذن أرحب بكم في هذه الحلقة الخاصة من حديث العرب مع الدكتور فوغا كيمورا، وهو أستاذ مساعد في مركز دراسات الشرق الأوسط بجامعة طوكيو. Dr. Kimura, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I have to say you are our first guest from Japan.
Yes.
Great. We'll have a discussion on Islam in Japan, Muslim culture in Japan, some discussions about the future of Islam in Japan, since it's part of your maybe core interest as a professor at Tokyo University. I would like to ask, first of all, about Islam. How did Islam first come to Japan?
Thank you very much. So, in Japan, the first encounter with Muslims in the long history, some people say that it's the first of 20th century. After Russian Revolution, some Tatar Muslims come to Japan, and they met some Japanese politicians who were interested to make connection with Muslim and Muslim world, and this is the first encounter.
You remember that? Is there a specific date?
I don't know the date, but the first of the 20th century.
20th century.
20th
okay.
century.
You are a Muslim yourself, right?
Yes.
You converted to Islam?
Yes, 10 years ago.
Okay. If you allow me to ask, what interests you in Islam?
The first, before converting, I started learning Arabic language in my university. My professor brought me to some Muslim countries like Malaysia, Urdun, and Morocco. Of course, in many Muslim countries, they have their own culture and they have different culture. But when we go to, for example, airport, different mazhab, even Sunni, Shia, and they are praying together, for example, in the airport, and it gave me the big impression of the concept of Ummah, how it's still alive in the Muslim world.
Are there many Muslims in Japan?
Not so many, and some people are saying 0.1% or 0.5% of Japanese Muslims. It's very different from Christianity. For example, for Christianity, 1% of Japanese people are Christianity.
1%.
Yeah, so
yes.
it's big difference between Muslims and Japanese.
Tell me about the main opportunities and challenges for Muslims in Japan today.
Of course, we have some kind of Islamophobia from Japanese also, because these days they are feeling the threat of like the foreign people who are coming to work in Japan. But at the same time, sometimes it's difficult to practice our religious duty, like 5 times praying in the company, because for most of the Japanese people, they never seen like such sajda movement and motion in the public place. So it's so shocked for them. Alhamdulillah, I can pray in the university because we have many international students, and we also try to make the we want to establish the international dialogue and compassion to other culture and religion. So it's easier for me to practice my religious life in university. But outside the university, it might be difficult even to pray. Sometimes they need to. We have much strong alcoholic society. Like after finishing the job, they're going to the restaurant and drinking with colleagues. Such times, the Muslim are feeling excluded from.
Before the show, you and I had an interesting discussions on the future of religion in general. I'm not talking about Islam in Japan in particular, in general. And we mentioned, for example, if you go to Europe today, churches are almost empty. People who, the number of people who go to practice religion in churches in Europe is declining by the day. Where do you see the future of religion in general in the world and in particular in Japan?
In Japan also, for example, in the Confucius tradition and Buddhist tradition, traditionally they usually make importance on to show respect to the family and relatives. Like dead person, we are doing the janaza funerals regularly, like every month or every summer or every year. But for younger generation, we lost such culture because it's just taking costs to keep the big graveyard, some religious practices and culture. So it's also we are also facing the crisis of such traditional religious values.
It's a global trend.
Yeah, global trend, I think.
Yeah. Okay, I'll bring you back to Japan and Muslims in Japan. Japan, as we all know, Japan has a religious mix of Shintoism and Buddhism. How does this shape Japanese views on Islam's monotheism?
It's very interesting phenomenon that for some Japanese and some Japanese Muslims also, they are thinking like every nation, they have their own messenger of God. So like some people are saying like that. So for Arab people, they have the concept of God. They have the concept of Allah. And for Japanese people, they traditionally have the concept of kami. It means God in Japanese sense. So they try to compare and try to find the similarity between them. I think it's of course we have the much difference between Buddhism, Islam, and Shintoism and Islam, but it's when we are seeking the teach of Islam, the Islam also has a concept that Allah sends a messenger to all nations. So such kind of similar thinking we have, I think.
We always ask on this particular show about the relationship between science and religion. Some people think the more the science advanced, the more the idea of religion is affected in a negative way. What's your take on that question of the relationship between science and religion?
I think in Japan also, these days artificial intelligence, AI, is becoming so popular, and sometimes, younger generation who cannot have the dialogue partner, they are finding the spirit salvation into such the new technology, like asking about the ethical value to the AI and daily problems. So in some point, I think that such new technology try to deprive the traditional role of religion. It's interesting phenomenon. But I think people inevitably, how can I say, the strong point of religion is, as I told you, that first time I felt the merit and strong point of Islam is the concept of ummah. We are not practicing Islam as alone, as an individual. We have the friends, teachers, and colleagues. So this kind of feeling of family and brotherhood is very important, I think.
Well, back to the question of religion and science. Some people, some scholars, when you read some articles about this particular topic, there is a sort of conclusion that science might, or the outcome or the findings of science might challenge some certain principles of or foundations of religion. Do you agree on that?
I do not agree. Always, for example, like clone technology, like people may create a human being in future. Some people are saying like that. I don't think it's never, how can I say, negate the value and creed of our religion. I don't think so.
أسرار المشرق، دراسة في الأديان الشرقية، أصدرها ضيفي البروفيسور الياباني فوغا كيمورا، ويحاول فيها أن يقدم شكلاً من أشكال الدراسات الدينية المقارنة. في هذه الدراسة نجد محاولة للتعمق في التأثيرات الفلسفية والاجتماعية للفكر الإسلامي، وربط ذلك بكثير من القيم المشتركة في المجتمعات الشرقية. فالأديان يمكن أن تكون وسيلة للتفرقة بين الشعوب، ولكنها أيضاً يمكن أن تجد أرضية مشتركة للتوافق والتفاهم والتسامح والازدهار. Back to Japan and Muslims in Japan. Both Islam and Japanese traditions emphasize the importance of tradition, purity, discipline, and respect of nature. Do these shared values create bridges between Islam and Japanese culture?
Yes, I think so. For example, every time when I have the Muslim guests to Japan, they're saying when they're seeing the Japanese society, they're saying, "Oh, Japanese are not Muslim, but they seem like practicing
They
Islam."
practice Islam,
Yes.
yeah.
It's a very common saying. So to some point, such kind of ethical value, we are very giving importance of such traditional culture. But the main difference is we lost the concept of how can I say, why we are doing such kind of thing and what for. So we do not have such theological foundation behind the ethical act. Just sometimes we are taking care too much about the neighbors and the things of this dunya. So some people are doing following the manner not to get bad reputation from neighbors and this town. So I think for Muslims, every time they're doing good thing for like Allah and God. So the foundation and aim of such ethical value is, I think, doubted, not doubted, but we do not ask what is the foundation of such ethical acts in Japan.
Mm-hmm. And how do Japanese Muslims handle ancestor veneration, which is central to Japanese traditions?
Yes, for that point, for me also it's sometimes problem because my family also regularly go to the graveyard and giving dua in front of the tomb. But I read one sentence in the Islamic tradition that the Prophet Muhammad, he was asked about the visiting to the graveyard of non-Muslims. Yeah. But he told that the remembering of death is important for every person. So even Muslims just not the aim to give the dua to the dead person in the traditional Confucianism or Buddhism way. Just remembering the death of human being is important. So I'm also following my family, but not giving dua in the traditional Confucianism.
So showing respect,
maybe,
to the memories of that person.
To share the memory is important, and it's how can I say? It's also shared value among the different regions.
Which lead me to a similar question or another question on how do Japanese Muslims balance their Islamic beliefs with Japanese culture?
Of course, if we have a common message between Islam and our Japanese culture and ethical tradition, we can adopt such, we can keep such culture, good culture. But for example, in religious purpose also, or to keep the relationship with friendship, we have, for example, such strong tradition to drink and share the alcohol. Of course, we cannot admit such kind of things as a Muslims. So it's one by one, based on case, I think.
Okay. As a Muslim yourself, what attracts you to Islam?
What attracts me Islam is, as I told you, like the sense of community.
Sense of community.
Yeah, sense of community.
But I'm asking because you are a scholar yourself. I mean, was it based on academic studies or deep study of Islam, or maybe in a very emotional way you got into the idea of Islam?
Yeah, I think it's not divided inside me because from the first time my Japanese teacher, he was also Muslim, studied for a long time in Muslim countries, and
Was he Japanese?
Yeah, he's Japanese. So he shows us, not only me, he shows his student how Islamic tradition make importance on like keeping knowledge from teacher to student, and how teacher are taking care of student not only about knowledge but social life also. So we lost such kind of things in our modern university, right? These days, like harassment issue is so sensitive. So even we cannot invite our student to our house.
Okay.
So it's much different, I felt.
And are there religious dilemmas for Muslims when visiting, for example, Buddhist temples?
Yeah. At that point also, for example, for the funeral of our relatives and family, I inevitably need to visit, for example, sometimes to the Buddhist temple. And my family also go to Shintoism shrine every year, the first day of every year. And just after becoming Muslim, I refused to go first time. I don't want to go. But after that, I noticed that, okay, I can go with them. Of course, I do not, it's not the aim to do religious things in front of the shrine and inside the shrine. So I just watching the people, what kind of value and religious spirit they're making importance and feeling. It's also good for me to learn what they needed in religion. So,
and also that might teach Muslims, how to be tolerant, how to accept the others.
Muslims, for Japanese Muslims, you mean?
Yeah.
For Japanese Muslims, I think some groups, we have many masjid in Tokyo. There, for example, some Muslims serving for homeless and to try to give accommodation for homeless and giving food. And I think it gives very good impression for Japanese people.
Okay, let me also ask you about your own studies. You studied Islamic international law and the law of war. What made you focus on this particular study?
Yeah, first, I'm interested in that field because they discuss it from 8th century, how to treat with non-Muslims. So it's, in this field, they're discussing the relation between Muslims and non-Muslims. And it's very interesting, depend on madhabs. For example, how implication of the Sharia depend on the Darul Islam or Darul Harb. So they do not force Sharia to non-Muslims. It's very interesting. Some people are misunderstanding, like if Muslims come to non-Muslims first, people are understanding, they try to force Islamic law to non-Muslims also. But it's different. It's different. So such kind of things I want to clarify, how the Muslims are thinking about their law and living place, how to treat with non-Muslims. So I think it's important knowledge for modern world also. Is
there a concern of radical or extremist ideologies amongst Japanese Muslim communities in Japan?
I don't know what is the extremist in the such Islam, but if we have such danger or crisis, such kind of things happen when Muslims were around. Like if the people, new converts, if they cannot meet the teacher face to face, or they couldn't find the good friends around him, like they're seeking knowledge by themselves, like via SNS or other things. We can these days easily access to the religious sources also by ourselves. So it makes them and us easily misled to some point. For example, in such intellectual environment, some people are taking close to such extremist thinking, I think.
Okay, it's interesting to find out that you did a study on Ash-Shafi'i, right? I just read a brief of the study. Hopefully, at one point, I need to read the entire study. Can you highlight, share the most interesting highlights or findings of the study?
Thank you very much. Yes. Why I studied Shafi'i school is because first I interested in the works of Abu Hamid Ghazali. So his book is he's the not non-Arabs. So it's very interesting. He discusses as an Ajami how we should start and organize our study from beginning to the gradually to the top of the knowledge. So it inspires not only me but the Japanese Muslims also, and we have many Japanese translation of his books. So it affects, motivate us to learn his madhab also. And at the same time, we have half Hanafi and half Shafi, because in Japan, the Muslims are coming to coming from the Turkey, and they're like teaching the Hanafi Mazhab.
Yep.
The like Indonesian and Malaysian, they're teaching Shafi school.
You studied in Turkey, right?
Yeah, Turkey and yes, Turkey.
Yeah, and also you do some translation from Arabic into Japanese.
Yes.
Okay, well then it's good to end the conversation with a question on the main challenges you face when translating Arabic text into Japanese.
Yeah, that point is also related to our intellectual and religious environment. For example, as for religious terminology, which we are using, it's strongly based on the Buddhism and Confucianism tradition. So even the translation of Allah, sometimes we are using the word of kami. It means God in Japanese language. So in English also, like when we are explaining about Allah, Allah is God, they said. Like that in Japan also, we are using the word of kami to describe the concept of Allah. So we cannot free from such intellectual limit or environment. Of course, this is not 100% correct understanding. So we should know how it's the concept of kami or God different from Allah, the original sense of Arabic. But at the same time, always we are comparing our culture and Islam, then notice the difference and similarities.
Any interest in Japanese academia of Islamic studies?
Yeah, it's few very small population, but as you know, we have the big name like Toshihiko Izetsu, like he's doing comparative studies between East Asian religion and Islam. So due to his influence, many Japanese young researchers are interested into such comparative study in the philosophical field and some like mystical field also, the Sufism also. So it affects us, our intellectual influence. So
do you give lectures in Arabic sometimes, or you don't do it in Arabic?
It was first time for me to give a lecture in Arabic at Muhammad bin Zayed University for Humanities.
And how was the experience?
It was so good, and the reaction and question of students are so high quality. So I really appreciate their attitude to hear sincerely my talk.
Shall we end this conversation with something in Arabic? Maybe you tell us something in Arabic.
Yes, فرصة سعيدة جدا، شكرا جزيلا. أتمنى زيارتكم إلى اليابان.
إن شاء الله.
إن شاء الله.
شكرا جزيلا للدكتور فوغا كيمورا، أستاذ مساعد في مركز دراسات الشرق الأوسط بجامعة طوكيو. نلتقي بكم الأسبوع المقبل. إلى اللقاء. شكرا.
شكرا جزيلا، جزاكم الله خير.